To enter her cat foot stance, you press forward 3 plus 4, and for simplicity purposes, a lot of times I'm only just going to say her CFS stance. And this is cat foot stance 1. Same thing with her heaven and earth stance. A lot of times I'm going to just say H and E stance just to make it easier. But yes, you press forward 3 plus 4, and you enter her cat foot stance 1. And this is pretty fast. It's decently fast, kind of like a lot of times when people just enter Miguel's savage stance and they just do an attack. I can see people just entering this stance and doing an attack. Okay, now it is a stationary stance. I'm sure I just showed you here that you technically can't block in this stance. It doesn't have any like auto block built in. So for the defense purposes, you do have ability to enter this stance and press back, and she does like a little jaguar jump away, kind of like that King Jaguar step thing, right? You see what I'm doing? Like the jaguar, she jumps away and does like a little spin or something like that. And that's actually pretty good. You cover a good amount of distance, and if you press 1 right after doing that, you go in with this unblockable attack. So you probably will have cases where you enter the stance and your opponent tries to attack you, and then you do the I keep wanting to say jaguar step just because I'm so used to call that for game, but basically you do the flip step back and you land unblockable to basically whiff punish their attack of trying to hit you. Now you can enter her heaven and earth stance by pressing forward after you enter cat foot stance 1. So if you do 4 3 plus 4, wait for a second and press forward again, you will enter her heaven and earth stance. And you can delay this. Actually, to be honest with you can delay anything when you enter her cat foot stance. So anytime you enter her CFS stance, you have the entire activation frames of the stance to do whatever comes next. And I'm showing you here again, and I'm pressing back as you see me backing away, that you can't block in that stance. You don't have any auto block or anything like that. So when you are in that stance, you probably should commit to something, because otherwise you can just get blown up. The only move she has to enter her cat foot stance 1, which is a 4-4-2 mid that comes out in I-13. Typically this will be I-14 to I-15 realistically because of the 4-4 notation. It is -2 on block, +15 on hit and on counter hit. Now it being -2 on block, it's one of those moves that if your opponent is actually frozen up, you can just do this over and over because the frames are really good. So you just bam, over and over and over again. Now on hit, it's +15, but it's unique. It forces you to enter cat foot stance, and you can't cancel out of that. You can't just do 4-4-2 by itself. You will always enter cat foot stance. Yeah, I'm trying to cancel, I can't. And for the most part, in a lot of cases, if you press any form of back or down back or up back, you're gonna find yourself actually going 4-4-2 on hit and then basically jumping out with the little jaguar jump away move. So yeah, it's not like, typically you have two cases. You have a case like Zafina, where she does her 1-3 auto goes into her scarecrow stance, but you can press down back and cancel that. So you have the option of not going into her scarecrow stance, or a case like Jhin where you do a move and you press a notation after it to choose to enter the stance, whether it's on hit or block. She doesn't have that option here. And you need to have control, because if you're doing, like I showed you earlier, we're doing 4-4-2 on block over and over, and you actually land the attack, and for whatever reason the forward notation skips forward and you jump right into heaven and earth, that's dangerous, because if you weren't planning to go into heaven and earth, you don't ever want to be in a situation to go somewhere where you weren't actually planning to do. So you just keep that in mind. Now that being said, every time you land this attack, you will be +15, which means in most cases when you go into cat foot stance, because this is going to be a very good way to do it, you're going to have +15 frames. So remember that number, okay, because you're going to be working off that a lot. And I'm showing you here that the range is actually pretty good. 4-4-2 is extremely linear. I was trying to think of a nice way of saying that because it's so linear, but there's no nice way. So if you're playing an opponent with very, very good movement, it is what it is. Lock them down with homing moves first, or a tracking move. First move we're going to talk about is CFS1, which is a high attack that comes out in I-19, +4 on block, knocks down on hit and counter hit. Yes, this is +4 on block, so very, very good frames on block. And what's really good about this is, look at the pushback. Look exactly where your opponent lands. It's setting you up to continue your pressure with her 4-4-2. You're like in perfect range to continue the pressure with 4-4-2, especially if you can get it out in I-14. Now on hit, as I said, it does knock down on hit, and you have a good amount of frames to work with on hit to basically run up and apply some type of Oki pressure or try to hit your opponent grounded. Another good thing is that this move does wall splat. So far, just all good things about this move I know. So that's really good. It actually wall splats. And one more thing that's great about this move, magic number +15. If you land 4-4-2, you have +15 frames to work with, and your opponent cannot interrupt with an attack. This comes out in I-19, your opponent can interrupt, so very good there. Nothing's perfect though. This move is not perfect. It is a high, so if your opponent reads you, they can duck and launch you. CFS2 is a mid attack that comes out in I-17, so this is actually your fastest attack coming out of cat foot stance 1. -9 on block, +4 on hit, and a counter hit launcher. So -9 on block, so safe on block unless you're playing somebody like Yoshimitsu. But for the most part, for most of the normal characters in the cast, you are safe on block. You are +4 on hit. Not great frames on hit, but still, it's, you know, it's nice. You got plus frames. Most important though, this is a counter hit launcher. And because of that, and the fact that this is I-17 and it's a mid, it's a great move in your cat foot stance coming off of 442 with the +15 magic number to keep your opponent in check. Because of course, if they can't interrupt I-19 CFS1, they can't interrupt I-17 CFS2, okay? And this move also has pretty decent tracking, and that makes it even better. So for me, this is probably my favorite move coming off 442 to lock my opponent down with. Next move we're going to talk about is CFS3, which is a high attack that comes out in I-26, so definitely slower than CFS1 and 2, which is fine. Every move can't have the speed force behind it. That's completely fine. It is -1 on block. Very, very good frames on block. And to add a little uniqueness to it, if you're looking at the screen here, you'll see when you land this on block, you tend to knock your opponent a little bit off axis, which is nice. You know, nice little added bonus there. And on hit, this is a launcher. This is also a tailspin, so you can use this as a combo filler. I don't know her combo paths yet or anything like that. I haven't really worked with her like that yet, but you know, it's a launcher and a tailspin, so that's cool. Of course, as I said, this is a high, so you can't be duck and launch, so be careful. So the last move out of her cat foot stance 1 is her CFS4, which is a mid attack. And this is one of those moves that if your opponent just hates Lydia and they're just standing there blocking forever because they're having nightmares about her, I'm over exaggerating, but my point is if they're just sitting there blocking, if you really lock them down, abuse this move. It comes out in I-28, so the slowest move out of her CFS stance. It is +8 on blocking and 4/6 crouch. On hit, it knocks down and gives you a guaranteed down 2, which is really nice. And on counter hit, yeah, of course, on counter hit, it is a counter hit launcher. So this is a very, very good move if your opponent is locked down. Alright, before we jump into a heaven and earth stance, I do want to clarify something really fast. As I said in the beginning of the video, you can only enter her heaven and earth stance by pressing forward out of her cat foot stance 1. So if you use 442 to enter cat foot stance 1 and you get that magic number of 15 plus frames, then you enter her heaven and earth stance, you are no longer at 15 plus frames. You are in fact negative. I believe she's like -5. So you want to do something kind of like what you see a lot of Josie players do at this point, is once you have your opponent conditioned not to press any buttons when Josie enters switch stance, you now have mental frames to work with where she can transition into her CD stance mix-up to get more damage. And that's the same concept here. You want to make sure that you condition your opponent from your cat foot stance to not press any buttons, so that when you enter into your heaven and earth stance, they're basically still in the weakness of the mental frame perspective, and then you can apply your HE stance moves. HE1 is a mid attack that comes out of I-16. It is -6 on block and it's a normal hitting launcher. And that's honestly pretty good. Outside of the fact that it is locked behind 2 stances, which that part isn't good, it is safe on block, it is a mid, and it is a natural launcher. So overall, I would say that's a very solid move. HE2 comes out in 20 frames and is a low attack. And this is the first time that we've had a low attack. Every move we've talked about so far in this video has been a high or a mid. So it's kind of interesting that this is a low attack. And on block, it is -13. Again, the first time of all the moves we've talked about so far that it is actually punishable on block, which I find to be interesting because I do think there's at least one move in cat foot stance 1 that I think should be punishable on block, but you know, whatever, do what you want to do with that. It's only -13, so in most cases you won't be launch punished for it. It is +4S on hit, so it's +4 on hit and 4/6 crouch. And on counter hit, this is a counter hit launcher. So I do think that this should be punishable on block. Now it does enter the crouch status in this animation. So this does tech crouch, meaning it will go under highs. And in most cases when it does that, if it lands, it'll probably be a counter hit launcher. The last move we're going to talk about is HE1+2, which is a high attack that comes out at I-16. It is +14 on block and knocks down on hit and counter hit. Now, after all my testing, this move actually guard breaks, and that for me is fascinating because I've never played a character that actually has a move that guard breaks, and you basically are guaranteed an I-14 frame attack or faster if you land this move on block, which is awesome because that basically means if you land this move at all, you get to attack your opponent and land it. Now on hit, it knocks down. You have some pretty good plus frames to kind of do some run up Oki right there. And if you're by the wall, this move also wall splat. So for the most part, this is a pretty good move. Okay, again, locked behind 2 stances, which I think it should be, if I'm being completely honest. It is a high though, so you have to be careful because if your opponent reads you, they can't duck and launch you, like all the other highs I've talked about. And that pretty much brings this video to an end. So that is the end of this Tekken 7 Lydia's beginner's guide. Better, I should say, Tekken 7 Lydia's overview and breakdown of her cat foot stance 1 and heaven and earth stance. If you guys like this content, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help my channel out a lot, and I really appreciate all the support you guys give me. If you guys like Dead by Daylight, Mortal Kombat, Tekken 7 artwork discussion posts, things like that, consider checking me out on Instagram. I've been working hard over there, and that is growing pretty well. And again, I appreciate all your support for you guys to give me over there on Instagram. This is Asset Light. You guys take care.